We got our best indication yet that Caitlin Clark is on her way back toward a return for the Indiana Fever. Stephanie White did talk about Caitlin Clark, and I thought the comments were fairly telling. Here's what she had to say.
Caitlin, able to go through your little walkthrough or whatever you normally do, and what do you want to see ultimately to get comfort, whatever?
The second Caitlin Clark stepped back onto that practice court, the entire WNBA ecosystem felt a seismic shift. A wave of pure, unadulterated panic instantly swept through front offices, rival teams, and the league headquarters itself. For weeks, they operated in a strange new normal, a world without the constant glare of the spotlight that follows number 22. But now, that grace period is over. The main event is warming up, and the truth they've been trying to hide is about to be exposed for the entire world to see.
Our walkthrough yesterday. Today it was very short, prior to game time. But she went through it yesterday, and I want to see her in practice. Live in practice. Want to see her continue to work to not just build endurance, but to be able to handle contact 94 feet as it's going to be in game, and to be able to do that and sustain from an endurance standpoint. And that's going to take multiple practices to make sure that there's no regression. And as most of us know, when we get fatigued, we look different, and see how she plays.
The WNBA doesn't run on parity. It runs on Caitlin Clark, and her return doesn't just change the game for the Indiana Fever. It threatens to dismantle the fragile narratives every single one of her rivals has been building while she was gone. If you want the full, shocking story behind the comeback that has the whole league sweating, you need to watch this entire video. And make sure you hit that like button and subscribe right now, because what we're about to break down will change how you see the season forever. Let's first talk about the void. The gaping hole left in the Indiana Fever's roster when Clark went down with that groin injury. This wasn't just a star player taking a few games off. This was the franchise's entire engine being ripped out from under the hood.
Clark, this video captured by Chloe Peterson at Shoot Around. You can see Caitlin doing some work right there, just, warm-up work, back and forth on the court, but nonetheless on a basketball court. It's been a long time since we've seen Caitlin Clark on a basketball court, certainly a long time since we've seen Caitlin Clark play basketball.
For nearly 2 months, the Fever weren't just bad. They were a ghost ship drifting without a captain. Look at the injury list. It looked like the opening scroll of a Star Wars movie. Sophie Cunningham, gone. Khloe Bucky, sidelined. Sydney Colson and Aari McDonald, completely shut down for the season. What was left on the court wasn't a professional basketball team. It was a patchwork scrimmage squad, a collection of hardship contracts, and exhausted rookies just trying to survive 4 quarters.
Because if you look at the Fever injury list, it's just wild to see. It's like the Star Wars scroll at the end of one of those movies. It's just a endless list of players who have been out, back out of the lineup again, and really just a lineup that you could build if you were the Indiana Fever. You could roll out there if you were experimenting, depending on the situation and the nature of.
Without Clark's gravitational pull on the court, without defenders being forced to guard her from the logo, the Fever's offense completely flatlined. It became predictable, stagnant, and frankly, hard to watch. Kelsey Mitchell had to transform into a superhero, dropping 20-plus points night after night, just to keep games somewhat respectable, but it was a wasted effort. It was desperation basketball. And everyone, from the coaches to the fans in the last row, knew it. This team was not making the playoffs without their superstar. The math was simple, and the math was brutal. But the impact of Clark's absence stretched far beyond Indiana's locker room. It sent shockwaves through the entire business model of the WNBA. Let's be brutally honest here. When Clark isn't playing, the league's noise level drops to a whisper. The viral highlights on social media slow to a trickle. The national sports talk shows suddenly have other topics to discuss. The sold-out arenas on the road, they return to normal crowds.
Caitlin, a lot, you bring up other rookies as well.
No league's ever about one player. That player could get hurt or whatever. So I think it's just to give recognition that in sports, people watch for compelling content and rivalries. And you can't do that alone as one person.
The league desperately wants to sell you on the idea of balanced competition, but the reality is far different. The reality is that ticket sales, TV ratings, and media buzz have Caitlin Clark's fingerprints all over them. For a month, the league office got a break from the intense, microscopic scrutiny that follows her every move. No endless debates about officiating. No clips of hard fouls going viral. Within seconds, it was a quiet, comfortable stretch for the executives, and that comfort has just been shattered.
More footage here, and you see Caitlin involved on the floor yet again, even handling the ball, working with her teammates. I mean, that's an important sign there, to see her working with her team.
This brings us to the massive, controversial dilemma at the heart of the saga. Should Caitlin Clark even come back this season? On one side, you have the cautious, logical argument. Groin injuries are no joke. They are notoriously tricky, they linger, and a premature return could lead to a catastrophic re-injury that jeopardizes her entire career. The Fever, at best, are fighting for a chance to get smashed in the first round of the playoffs. Is that really worth risking the long-term future of your franchise player? But on the other side, the other side is where things get messy. This side isn't driven by logic. It's driven by money, pressure, and desperation. Fever fans are screaming to see their savior.
Look like we may actually have some legitimate movement in the direction of Caitlin Clark coming back, and I will sort of look at the schedule with you guys and try to determine what game I think she might act.
TV executives are begging for their ratings goldmine. And yes, the WNBA league office, led by Kathy Engelbert, is absolutely petrified of a postseason without its biggest draw. Do you think for a second they're losing sleep over Clark's long-term health? They're staring at spreadsheets and bottom lines. They need their golden ticket back on the court, and they need her now.
Sparks, and this is a big game because the Sparks are right there with us on the playoff race, and they hold tiebreakers. By the way, so do the Valkyrie. All right, we do have one win. I believe it's one win over the Mercury. And then we've got a Sky team that we should beat, a Mystics team that we should beat, but you can't, I mean, who knows? I think they beat us in the last game. And then we close out the regular season with the Lynx. We're not making the playoffs without Caitlin Clark. There. Yeah, I said it. We're not making the playoffs without Caitlin Clark. I don't think.
And speaking of panic, let's zoom in on the enemy camp. The jealous players and coaches who have been taking cheap shots and throwing shade at Clark since the moment she was drafted. We all know the names. Angel Reese, who built her entire brand on a faux rivalry that's been completely one-sided. Aya Wilson, who hasn't been able to hide her resentment toward the attention Clark commands. Coaches like Cheryl Reeve, who seem to make a hobby out of downplaying her impact. For weeks, they've been able to run their mouths without consequence, building their own narratives while the main character was sidelined. But now they're sweating bullets. The thought of Clark returning sharp, of her stepping onto court and bearing a 30-foot logo free in their face, it terrifies them. Because all their trash talk, all their dismissive comments instantly become irrelevant as she comes back and dominates. Their credibility is on the line, and they know it.
And it's these two games that are the big pivot games. Sparks, Valkyries. That game right there, that Friday night game, I have a feeling that she might actually return for that game.
This isn't just about drama. This is about cold, hard playoff math. Right now, the Indiana Fever are hanging on by the absolute thinnest of threads. They're in a brutal dogfight with teams like the Los Angeles Sparks and the Seattle Storm for final play-in spots. And the problem is, those teams hold the tiebreakers. Every single game from here on out is a must-win. One more losing streak, and their season is officially over. This is why her potential return is circled in red on every calendar.
Not necessarily probably team practices, but being able to put together, threes, fours, and different things that we can go against and match up with.
Great follow-up question by Tony East there, because that's been a question that people have wondered. Is there even enough practice time? And a nice distinction drawn by Stephanie White there, which is important, which means she needs to see Caitlin Clark in practice, but it doesn't have to necessarily be official team practice, meaning they will be able to replicate what a practice looks like.
Imagine the scenario. Clark is clear to play in a must-win game against the Sparks. Overnight, the Fever's odds of clinching that final spot skyrocket. The entire playoff picture tilts on its axis. Los Angeles and Seattle, teams that thought they had a clear path, are suddenly left scrambling. Her presence doesn't just give Indiana a boost. It sends a wave of panic through every single team clinging to those final spots. They don't want to see her. Not now. Not when everything is on the line.
They're not going to sit there with Caitlin Clark healthy and ramping up and just leave her there when they're in the playoffs if she's ready to go. They're going to figure that out on the fly, is how you take those comments. You also take them to mean that Caitlin Clark is back participating with the team, which we got a hint of on Sunday. They've been behind closed doors since then. You start to look at the schedule. I mean, I think the you know, at any point, it's getting more and more realistic. The more the Fever win without her, the more time is bought. Like, the ideal date may be that Chicago game on September 5th, and since it's at home and there's space between, but you can't totally rule out the road trip either, which still has the 29th, the 31st, and the
But the league itself is caught in a trap of its own making. With Clark's return comes the one thing they've been dreading: the microscope, the intense, unforgiving spotlight that follows her every move. We're talking about the referees. These are the same officials who let Clark get hacked, shoved, and undercut all season long without consistent calls. When she's playing, every single foul, every missed call is dissected in slow motion replay by millions of fans within seconds. The league cannot hide its officiating inconsistencies when Caitlin Clark is on the floor. Her safety isn't just a health issue. It's a credibility issue for the entire WNBA, and the executives know it. They're not ready for that pressure to come back, but they have no choice.
I know a lot of you are like, why come back? Why come back? Well, look, if she's back and she can get in the flow and she does need to come back, I think with several games to go to get back and try to find her first rhythm for the year, really and truly, getting a good, then yeah, they become very dangerous with a big three. And look, I'm using that term loosely because Aaliyah Boston has not been great lately. Big 2.5.
Amidst all this external noise, we have to remember the most important factor: Caitlin Clark's own mindset. This is not a player who is wired to shut it down. This is not a prospect who is content to sit and watch from the sidelines, to become a spectator in her own story. To understand what drives her, you have to look back at the foundation of her career, the countless hours in empty gyms, the relentless drive that was forged long before she ever became a national phenomenon. This is the same competitor who carried Iowa through the gauntlet of March Madness, who looked impossible pressure directly in the eye and didn't just accept it, she embraced it. That mentality isn't something you can turn on and off. It's a fundamental part of her DNA, the core operating system of an athlete who is only truly at peace when she is in the fight. The very idea of staying safe on the bench, of preserving herself for a future season, is completely foreign to everything she has ever stood for. Think about her history. This is a player who has always played with a chip on her shoulder, with something to prove, even when she was breaking every record imaginable. That fire, that undeniable hunger, doesn't just vanish because of an injury. If anything, being forced to watch, to be helpless while her team struggles, has only stoked that internal flame to an inferno.
Caitlin Clark is clearly ramping up, not being shut down. Now, there can always be a setback, but it seems like things are trending, certainly, in a positive direction. So, for all the doom and gloom, and of course, I'm not sitting here telling you the Fever are winning the championship or anything, but it feels like their fight is being rewarded. That team is playing hard. They're playing well. People are coming in and playing well on the fly. And Caitlin Clark,
she's been restless on that bench, analyzing every play, feeling every setback as if it were her own, because in her heart, she isn't just watching a game. She's studying it, internalizing it, and mentally preparing for the moment she can re-enter the fray and change its outcome. For an athlete of her caliber, the hardest part of any injury isn't the physical pain. It's the mental torture of inaction. It's the feeling of letting your teammates down, of not being there to share in the struggle. That weight is heavier than any defensive pressure. So when we talk about the medical staff giving her the green light, it's not just about a doctor's clearance. It's about that moment when her own internal assessment aligns with the physical data. The second she feels that she can contribute, that she can make a difference, even a small one, she will push to play. She will advocate for herself with the same intensity she brings to the court. The shut-it-down crowd, while logical from a big picture perspective, doesn't understand this warrior spirit. They operate on spreadsheets and risk assessments. Clark operates on instinct, on passion, and on an unshakable belief in her own ability to overcome. This isn't recklessness. This is a calculated confidence built on a lifetime of pushing through barriers. She has spent her entire career proving doubters wrong, turning she can't into she just did.
It's healthy. It's just getting her back to where she needs to be from a basketball standpoint. But all in all, even Khloe Bucky, Stephanie White said, would be hopefully back at practice by the end of the week. All things considered, it's got to be the best day.
A groin injury is just the latest obstacle in a long line of challenges she has been determined to smash through. She runs toward the fire not because she doesn't fear the heat, but because she trusts in her own ability to withstand it. The final decision on her return won't be made by Kathy Engelbert in a distant boardroom, nor will it be solely dictated by a cautious medical team. It will be made by Caitlin Clark in her own mind, based on one thing above all else: her burning, undeniable, and uncompromising desire to compete, to lead, to stand alongside her team when it matters most, and to leave everything she has on the floor, because any other outcome is simply not an option for a heart that beats only for the game. So what happens next? We are standing on the edge of a detonation. If Caitlin Clark returns, even at 80%, she completely changes the landscape of the WNBA. A successful comeback against a team like the Sparks or the Liberty would break the internet. The highlights would be everywhere. The playoff odds would flip in an instant. The Fever would transform from a lifeless team into a dangerous, unpredictable nightmare for any higher seed. And the players who doubted her, who talked about her while she was down, would be exposed. Their jealousy would be laid bare for everyone to see. But if she struggles, if she looks rusty, or worse, re-injures herself, the narrative will be brutal. The second guessing will be endless. The Fever season will end with a whimper, and the long off-season will be filled with questions. The entire league has a vested interest in this working, but they are absolutely terrified of the outcome. They are in full-blown panic mode because they know their product is inextricably linked to one player, and that player is lacing up her sneakers, ready to prove why. The sheer weight of this moment cannot be overstated. This is more than just a player coming back from an injury. It is a pivotal event that could define the next era of the entire league. Every dribble she takes, every shot she attempts, will be analyzed not just for what it means for the game, but for what it signifies for the future. The pressure is immense, but if anyone is built to handle it, it's Clark. Her entire career has been a masterclass in thriving under blinding spotlights and colossal expectations. This is just the next chapter in that story. The question is, how will the rest of the league react when that chapter is written? Imagine the scene. The arena is sold out, electricity crackling in the air. Every fan is on their feet, phones held high, waiting for that first moment she checks into the game. The buzz isn't just about basketball. It's about witnessing a cultural moment. And for the players on the opposing team, the pressure shifts onto them instantly. The target on their back grows tenfold. Fouling her too hard will bring a whirlwind of criticism and scrutiny. Letting her score will make them a permanent part of her highlight reel. There is no winning for them, only varying degrees of fallout. This is a Clark effect in its most potent form. It forces everyone around her to confront their own legacy in real time. Furthermore, her return sends a direct message to every young fan watching. Resilience is everything. It's about getting up when you get knocked down, about facing doubt with determination. This narrative transcends sports. It becomes a story about heart and perseverance, which is why it resonates so deeply with millions. The league knows this. They understand that Clark is not just a player. She's a symbol. And symbols have incredible power. Her success elevates everyone, but her failure would be a devastating blow to the momentum the WNBA has fought so hard to build. Yet, within that fear lies an undeniable excitement. The possibility of seeing her rise to the occasion once more, to flip the script and silence the critics, is the kind of drama that sports legends are made of. It's the reason we watch. It's the reason we care. The next move is hers, and the entire basketball world is holding its breath. What happens next isn't just about points on a scoreboard. It's about the future of the game itself. What do you think? Should Caitlin Clark shut it down for the year to protect her future? Or should she come back and give the Fever and their fans a shot at the playoffs, no matter the risk? Let us know your honest thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to stay up to date on every single twist and turn in this story, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update